Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to HOTFIX. Today, we're going to be talking about what makes an MMO great. How does an MMO get to the point of being a great MMO? Now, we spoke about this in the past, Mr. Kirioth, about we basically came to the conclusion that the best MMO ever is obviously, it's on a person-by-person basis. So, like for me, it was EverQuest 2. For you, it was WoW. And the reason for that is because the community was so good. We got so sort of pulled into that community that will always be the best MMO to us. But I want to go deeper, Mr. Kirioth. I want to go deeper.
Go.
That's what she said.
Oh,
anyway, it's all very well saying that it's the community that's made the game great. Because, yeah, that's fine. But why did these people play the game in the first place? This is not something which has just happened and it's like, oh, there you go, this is a great community. There must have been something, some underlying thing which caused people to stick with the game and level up through the early levels, fall in love with the game, and then move on to the community.
Yeah,
that's what this hotfix is going to be about.
You don't just get like a pre-made group of like 10,000 people descend on a game and immediately all go, yeah, this is the best thing I've ever played within like a minute. It's got to be like a gradual build-up. So there's got to be something in there where every single person who's playing at the time like hooks onto it and they take it with them and keep it with them enough to keep playing so that when you join the game, suddenly there's this mass of people who like the same thing that you do.
So, why did you fall in love with that certain MMO?
Well, for me, it was World of Warcraft. And
okay,
it wasn't.
Let's strip it back. Why did you play it?
The thing that I liked more than any other game that I'd ever played was the fact that there was like.
Now, hang on for the crowd. Kirioth, that was his first MMO. He played Freelancer, which kind of, I guess you could say, was kind of like a mini MMO, but this was the first proper MMO. He hasn't played EverQuest, Ultima Online, or anything like that. Yeah, it was just WoW.
That was the first MMO I ever went for. And I think for me, it was like, it didn't matter what you did or where you went. There was like links to everywhere else, like all over the place. You could be leveling up in like Duratar, but there'd be talks about, oh, this thing's happening in Orgrimmar. There's like actually links to different characters in different cities.
What got you? That sort of comes later. Why did you play the game? You've installed the game. You've made a character. Why?
I think for me it was a combination of a few things. It was the setting it was in, because I love fantasy stuff, so that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
There was I know it sounds strange, but actually it might not sound revolutionary to other people, but the class system, because I'd not really played a game before where there was something that defined your character to that extent. Like, so if you picked a rogue, you were invisible. You had all these really specific things that only rogues could do and no one else could. And it was like a combination of the two. It was like I actually had my own person, my own character in this story in the middle of a fantasy world, which was like my second favourite setting behind sci-fi. So it was this combination of I create this person with this story in this world, and whatever I do will have an effect on everything around it. I think that's pretty much what made me...
That's pretty much what I expected you to say, yeah. I mean, if I give you my example. So the first MMO I played, it was EverQuest, or EQ Live, the first one. I only played it for 2 months. Now, the reason for this is because EverQuest 2 came out. So I was pretty late to the EverQuest party, but, I wasn't very old at the time. I was probably 17, maybe 16. We're talking over 10 years ago, easily. And I can remember for hours on end playing EverQuest. Like, I don't even know how long I played it for. This is the first one, by the way. I'll get onto the second one at the moment. And what really kind of... What I couldn't believe was the number of players. Like, you go to... I played it when POC was in. This was the Plane of Knowledge. It was sort of like the hub town. Well, it wasn't really a town, I suppose. It was the hub. It was where everybody went. Everybody could teleport there. Now, I know if any old EverQuest fans are listening to this, they're probably like, fuck you, Sty, POC was shit, it wrecked the game. It's like, well, all right then, whatever. But that's when I played it. But there was hundreds of people there, and it was like, wow, these are all these are all people. What the, they're all their own classes and characters, and you get together in groups. I can't remember what the bloody place was called, but it was like a cave, a low level area. In fact, let's talk about Clan Crushbone. I remember that. So this is where the orcs are. The king of the orcs was there. Well, king of the Crushbone orcs was there, and you'd go through the little castle area and you'd kill them, but you couldn't do it on your own. You needed a group, and a lot of EverQuest was about groups. You needed a group, so you had to work together with people. And I could not believe that. Well, it wasn't really to do with, but it just blew me away that you had to actually talk to these people and work together as a team to beat the objective. And that, if I'm honest, that's what totally sold me on it. Other things as well, the world was so massive, it looked really shit. Even at that point, the graphics were really dated. So I'm kind of young, like I said, I'm like 16 or 17. So I'm like, you know what? I want nice graphics, because I had a fairly decent computer at the time. So along came EverQuest 2, and I jumped onto EverQuest 2. Now, if I'm honest, the only reason I wanted to go onto EverQuest 2 was because it looked better visually, and it was a fresh start. Now, I was coming into EverQuest like 6 years behind everybody else, so I didn't really have I was miles behind everybody, you know what I mean? Like, I was like a noob, a total noob, and it was like, oh dear. It might have been 5 years, actually, whenever it came out. And with EverQuest 2, I could be there at the start, and it was like, yes, this is my chance to be there at the start. So I went in. I remember I went to Game, which was it's a shop in the UK, I've even still got the box, the EverQuest box, installed it, couldn't wait for it, logged on, and I was a barbarian paladin, because I wanted to be a healer and a tank. But obviously, as the game developed, Mr. Kirioth, it turned out that you couldn't tank for shit.
Oh.
At the time I played it, and you couldn't really heal. So you were just like this guy who was a bit shit. But game design aside, or character design aside, what sold me completely was you are in this world, and this is the big point I want to. This is what I think is the reason why MMOs, or certain MMOs, have been so popular, either been genre defining or the beasts like World of Warcraft, is because they sell you a world which is so believable and has such a really good, well, maybe it's not to do with believable, but it's got such a good lore background. You know what's going on. Like I'm there in EverQuest 2. I'm a barbarian. I'm a refugee. I've just turned up. I've decided to take to put roots down in Kenos, so I'm like the good aligned city. I'm not in Freeport, so we don't like the people from Freeport. We've got a null invasion going on in Antonica. We've got to sort that out. And all this other stuff. I mean, I know this sounds cheesy, but it was like, wow, this is a world that I'm playing in. Because I'm just going to quickly jump onto some. Well, I'm going to use Rift as an example. Now, I'm not hating or digging on Rift, dear guys, so don't think I am, but I played Rift only up to about level 15 when the game first came out, and to me, the world just seemed really crappy. Like, I didn't care. Like, I really didn't care. Now, whether that's a case of me not wanting to care because I've already done it with EverQuest and with World of Warcraft, and it's like, here's another one, why would I care? Maybe I'm burnt out, I don't know. But I think, Mr. Kirioth, the big point I think is the reason why these games become so popular, is they have really good worlds. So these are the examples I've got. EverQuest, really good world. EverQuest 2 builds off that. World of Warcraft, it's based on Warcraft. Would you like some lore, sir? Because here's a fucking metric shit ton of it.
Doesn't matter where you go in that game, you've got something more to read and something more to learn about.
EVE Online, that's another one. Just a massive, such a. I mean, EVE Online's a little bit unique because I think it attracts a different type of player, but it is still unique in its own right, and it's still like a memorable thing. You can't go and you can't just pick up an MMO, like some sort of WoW clone MMO, and expect it to be great.
So I think that's one thing where I don't think any other MMO I've played has quite matched World of Warcraft for, is just the interconnectedness of the world, where everywhere you go, there's something more to learn about each area.
Yeah, like you said earlier, yeah.
I think you can mark the difference between that and other MMOs, because when we were playing Star Wars: The Old Republic, when that came out, I felt kind of connected to my character. But despite the fact that there are all these iconic locations and how it was supposed to be, you were playing through this massive war between the Sith and the Jedi and all that, the world was like dull. It didn't feel like I was actually in it. It was just a place for my personal storyline to kind of weave round.
How do you make a good world then? So, like, I'm just going to say it, right? I think World of Warcraft has the best MMO world, right, in terms of aesthetic design, environment design, everything, right? Because I think the attention to detail they put into that game is like world class. And I think the reason they did it is because they looked at EverQuest, and EverQuest did the same thing. And they were like, you know what, we're going to do this as well. I think an example I can give you with WoW is you could loot, I don't know, cheese off a monster. And the cheese would have a little bit of text underneath saying it was made in so-and-so's cheese shop in Stormwind or something. And you could actually go to Stormwind and buy that cheese. And that's like, how many players actually do that? Not a lot in the grand scheme of things. But to me, that is like, this is a real world. I can actually go to the shop. It's not just something which is there with no explanation. You know what I mean?
There's like history. There's history and personality behind loads of little things. And I think that's the thing that it gets right the most, because you can pick up stuff anywhere in the world and you'll find that it's come from a different part of the world, and it makes it all one big place where, you know, all this stuff has happened and all the NPCs and all the players have all been involved in it, and you feel like you've been involved in it because there's constant reminders everywhere. And I think that was one of the things that I found I really missed with Star Wars. I just didn't see much of that. That was one of my problems with that game, where I just didn't find myself caring about the universe that I was in.
Well, I think the problem is what they tend to do. Most newer MMOs that have come out in the last 3 or 4 years is they put too much emphasis on the bloody combat system. Now, if you think about it, what did you really give a fuck about World of Warcraft's combat system? Did I give a fuck about EverQuest's combat system? At no point in this discussion in the last 10 minutes have we even spoke about the combat system. It's because I think it's totally irrelevant at that capturing the customer initial stage. You make a new character in EverQuest, the world is like, oh shit, this is amazing. Do it in World of Warcraft. Wow, I'm in a living, breathing world. You play the game you probably get to max level, to be honest, and then you start worrying about mechanics and what's going on. But at that point, you're so invested in the game, and you're starting to build community, you know, contacts. You're in a guild, you're getting to know players, and I will always say this, but I think EverQuest 2 was probably the best gaming experience I've had, because that was the first time I ever worked together in a large group with people. Eventually, I became a raid leader of that guild. At that time, not a lot of people were playing MMOs. You know, it wasn't like World of Warcraft is now with God knows how many subscribers it's got and stuff like that. They were kind of relatively unknown. It was still like, oh yeah, you're living in the basement, which was far from the truth, because I was playing almost professional football at the time. It's like totally ridiculous. But whatever, you know, it's.
So I think another thing as well is that a big part of the world is the factions that are in it. Now, one thing that I found I really liked about World of Warcraft was, I mean, as you said, I came from Freelancer. I played that game probably more than anyone in their right mind would. But on the server I was on, there were distinct clans and they had their own systems, and you had wars between the systems, and you could take over other people's planets and all that kind of thing. So it was like there was a lot of, you felt loyal to that group. You know, you had your clan and you were loyal to that clan, and when you were called on, you would go and defend your stuff, or you would go and attack your enemies.
But I think we need to stop this though, because that's like, and even I just touched on it again. That's kind of like what we discussed before. We know that community is a very good.
Oh yeah, but it's not the community side for me. For World of Warcraft, it was, I was playing an orc. The orc's home is Orgrimmar, and when you went into it, it was like, yes, this is my place in the world. That's what it was like. It was like coming home to that place. I mean, when they redid Orgrimmar, and it was all like massively over fortified, and there were airships going over that I fucking love that. I mean, I hadn't played the game that much up until, you know, in the run up to that. But
Cataclysm, was it? Yeah. Cataclysm starting, I think, was the last time you really played it, and I totally get what you're saying. But again, that is to do with this design of the world. Mm-hmm. I think Blizzard and Sony at the time had put so much effort into designing something which, well, I think believable is just the best word. Something that is real. Because, like I said with the cheese example, you loot the cheese, you can see where it comes from, you can go and get it. The same with loads of beer. I mean, think about. I'm just going to use bloody World of Warcraft as the example, because you think about World of Warcraft, a lot of people know about this, yeah? How many parts of the world do you only ever visit once? Or you might not even have to visit, you just run past it, but you might think, oh, I'll go and check that out. It's a grave, somebody's grave, and it happens to be somebody to do with the law, or something like that. There's a lot of that all over the place. How much of that was in the Old Republic?
I didn't.
is in Rift.
Yeah, it's just that.
How much lore does Rift even have to back it up? It does not have this massive, and I mean massive catalogue of lore EverQuest has, and World of Warcraft, because they're like, these are. Well, I mean, EverQuest has got about 30 expansions or something. It's got loads of lore, loads and loads of lore. But Warcraft's more accessible to the mass market, but again, loads of lore.
It's the way it's weaved into the world that I think is the best, because you can have good world design.
I don't even think it's hard to do either.
No, I mean, you can have good world design and you can have good lore. I mean, sometimes the two are not entirely
good lore.
They're not matched up. You can have a game that's got a brilliant backstory, but you think, well, this just feels bad. Whereas with like WoW and EverQuest 2 and stuff, they're so tied together that you're walking around this world and you feel like you're in it and you feel like your character should be there. And then you get to your home city and you're like, holy shit, this is the best because I belong here. But then in other games, you just don't get that in other games. And I think that's more important. I mean, you said before that we have hardly talked about gameplay at all. And that's because I don't think it really matters, because we've got to the point with MMOs that there's a cookie cutter kind of gameplay, isn't there? Where you select your target, you press your hotkeys, and you mash off abilities. That's fine. It works. It's engaging enough.
Yes, but the argument with that is you need development, and you do see some things which are different. Where they have the more action-based combat system, like Neverwinter recently, for example. They have like different combat systems which are fairly, they're okay. But like you said, I honestly don't think it really matters as much as people really like to bang on about the mechanics, all this and that. If the game has a great world and it can sell you on that world, I think that's what gets people initially hooked into it.
Yeah.
Because if I'm some guy and I play EverQuest and I'm totally brought into that world, this is at the time the game came out, so EverQuest 2. I'm like, Kiri, you need to play this game. It is amazing. You come to the game and I'll show you around. And then you're like, shit, Bob, you need to come and play this game. And Bob's like, shit, Dave, you got to come and play this game. That's how World of Warcraft got popular as well. It is literally just that same sort of thing. And of course, you can play together in a group, so you could get your group of friends. And a lot. I mean, about 5 of my friends did play World of Warcraft. I didn't play it at that time. I played it when it first came out. I had the game, and then I sort of was like, "Fuck this," because I was in a raid guild in EverQuest 2, so I just went back to EverQuest 2. It was like a little brief flirtation, but then as I went to college and me and Kiri started playing it, we sort of it was kind of a strange way that we used to play it, wasn't it? We sort of just used to play it together, sort of.
Yeah.
We didn't really play it that much in terms of, like, we didn't get in a guild and we didn't go off and do loads of groups and stuff like that. We always ran our own groups because we knew that, like, Kiri was the healer, I was the tank. We always knew it'd be good, you know what I mean? But, like, that's just another thing. Like, at no point are we talking about the mechanics of the game. That only really matters to people who are at the super high end of the game, or people who, for some reason, are obsessed about the mechanics of the game.
And how did they get to being at the super high end? They played the game. They were like, "This is amazing. This world's incredible." And then you just end up invested.
This is the question, and this is a question I've got the answer for, and I'm not sure anybody has. But if an MMO came out now, today, with the best world you've ever seen and the best lore, it is just the best, right? Let's say it's the best. It's got the same combat system as World of Warcraft, which is fine because millions of people know how to use that and all that stuff, right? Would you play that game? Knowing, having the experiences you've already had, would you think, oh, this is the same thing? So are we then in a situation, if you do think that, whereas these games we give the examples of, mainly EverQuest 2 and Warcraft, are they, because they were really the first, are they always the best? Regardless of what comes after. Now, when I was gushing the other day about, because I was reading the EverQuest 2 wiki and I was like, I can remember going here and all this crap. And I think, what was I showing you? The bloody, in Everfrost, the permafrost castle with the giants and all that stuff. It's like, this is crazy. That game was fairly difficult. There was also a quest, what was it? Speak as a Dragon, I think it was, where you have to learn the dragon tongue to be able to speak to Nagathon. And then you speak to him and he gives you the quest for I think it's the prismatic weapons. But that was like a quest where you had to go all over the world and everything to learn to speak the dragon tongue. And it took ages to do it. You needed like multiple different raids all over the place. And it's like, okay, on paper, it sounds a bit laborious. You've got to go here, you've got to go there. But to me, it was amazing because I was going to areas of the world I didn't I might not have necessarily have ever gone to, because why would I go there? It's a lower level area. I don't know, but I had to go there to see this guy and it was like that type of stuff. I don't know. I mean, like, I will confess to this, and I did say to Kiri, I am kind of looking forward to what EverQuest Next turns out to be. If it is a case of it is like the original EverQuest with better graphics system, well, better graphics, full stop, graphics system, what the hell is that, engine, and it is more like that in the sense of it doesn't hold your hand and stuff like that. But, I can't see that being the case. Because, again, you could say, like, with Morrowind, that was massively nasty. Like, you never got quest markers or any of that shit. It was just the quest would be in the journal. It'd just say, keep running down the path until you see a bush, turn right at the bush, do left, do right, run up the hill, and it's there. You're like, what? You got to read it and remember. It's like, have I gone past the bush? Yeah. But to me, that stuff's great. It is. It's like, yeah. But I'm not too sure if that is what appeals to the main player base. And I don't think... I honestly don't think we'll ever see anything like that again.
It seems unlikely. But I don't think... I really hope that we haven't reached the pinnacle of properly immersive worlds. Surely someone out there has got an idea for a mental MMO world with like insane lore that's just really well written, really well linked together. It's great. I really hope something like that.
Could there be a second wave? Could there be a second wave of all these people who have played World of Warcraft, have played EverQuest, and they've played them to death? They've played them for fucking years, and they're like, look, these games are well over 10 years. I think actually WoW is almost 10 years old, I think, isn't it? Didn't that come out in 2004?
Yeah, I think so.
The end of 2004, something like that. I think EverQuest 2 might be the same age. I think it came out a few months before, but not really anything drastic. Could you get this second wave where you've got these people who were kids, well, not kids, but were teenagers at that point, so they're like 16, 17, 18, 19. They've played WoW and EverQuest and God knows what up until like their early 20s, maybe mid-20s, kind of to our age, and now they're a bit bored of it, so then they're like, yeah, whatever. Maybe in a few years' time, these people could kind of find a second wind and go back into the market if there's a product for it. Now, talking of that, this leads me into my final point, Mr. Kirioth. This is about EVE Online. EVE Online, now I think I can safely say this, and don't you get any filthy thoughts because I don't mean it like that. This is an adult MMO. This is not something you can go and just play, Mr. Kirioth.
No, I'd agree with that.
You need some sort of intellectual prowess to play this game. You cannot just go and play EVE. It is very much a mature MMO. Now, could there be a market for mature MMOs? Because you're going to have all these, mid-20s age group people and whatever are starting to get into the 30s. Maybe they would like this more mature style of game. You could say, well, they'd be playing EVE Online. Yeah, but I'm talking in a fantasy universe because EVE Online is a great game, but EVE Online is EVE Online. It's the only thing like it. And I don't think there'll be anything like it again. You know what I mean? That's just EVE Online. So if you want that spaceship, hardcore, super economy experience, EVE Online. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we could see a second with Mr. Kirioth. I don't know.
I kind of hope we do.
Well, I hope we do. I think, just to recap this, and this is what I think. Now, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to disagree, agree, add points in the comments, do whatever. This is what I think has happened with, or what makes an MMO great. It isn't the community, because that comes later. That makes it, well, arguably greater. But before that, we're looking at things like, we're not looking at mechanics. We're not even looking at graphics, to be honest. We're just looking at, so I'm talking about, obviously, the complexity of the graphics engine. We're just looking at the quality of design. So this is how well the world is designed, how believable the world is, how the world kind of interacts with the player. Like Kiri said, he loved the fact that he was an orc and he could run to Orgrimmar and it looked solid. It was like, shit, this is an orc place. Yeah, I love it. He belonged to that city. I think that basically sums it up. I think that's why MMOs can be considered great. That's why WoW, that's why EverQuest, and even EVE are considered great MMOs, because they have this believable, well-crafted world where the players feel they belong to the world and belong to parts of the world. And there are also things like we said with the cheese. You can loot it and you can also go and buy it from the goddamn shop where it's made in the game. And the only purpose of the shop is just to sell the fucking cheese. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
It's there to provide that anchor for the thing that's been, like, placed before. So you can see it and you can go, oh, I could go there. And then you go there And it is exactly...
It makes it believable.
Yeah.
It makes it believable that you can't even... I don't think anybody could argue with me and say, oh, that's pointless, because what's the point of designing that shop and doing that, because that's crap. I'd say, fucking hell, that is amazing. You know, and I'm not too sure whether people who have come up with the more recent MMOs, the clones, as people call it, of World of Warcraft, because it uses the same bloody combat system and such, but if that's the case, then that's a clone of EverQuest, but we could be here all day with that type of argument. Like, they have... Why are they not putting the same sort of effort into the design of the world? I don't know, Mr. Kirioth. But we're going to throw this over to the people, the viewers, the fans, the heroes. Comment below. We always read the comments, but we're going to get out of here now because we could just dribble on about this all day long. So I've been Stylosa. You can follow me you can follow me on Twitter at Unit Lost Gaming, and Kirioth is at Kirioth. Make sure you favourite and like the video and all that stuff, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll catch you next time. Toodaloo.